All right. First thing on the list, obviously, since it's been blowing up our giant science chat for past week, is our unknown structures. So right now we are a tad behind on the API redesign. At this particular moment in time, we're going to be pulling the API front end out and having Nofi just focus on the back end. I don't know if he wants to elaborate on his thinking on the timeline on how long until we can start pumping different missions into the back end.
I was thinking about that, and I hope I get the first version of the POI tracking in terms of, especially for the new unknown structures, in hopefully end of the week.
Faster than I expected. So after that one, right now we're running off an external API by one of the new members in IRD and with Val on the front of that. At this particular time, that's working. It's a really janky solution as we're basically pulling a CSV information out of the spreadsheet, and then that's going in through the API and manual input more or less to power the 3D map for the US sites. In the future, we should probably look at opening that up a little bit to allow outside devs if they want to start sticking some stuff on our servers. Any other thoughts on that? Okay, I'll take that as a yes. The possible guide and front end for the main site codecs. I know Zeb, I think, was working on a guide for extracting locations out of those audio files. I don't know if that's something that we want to try and build a tool for, or if we want to just stick that on the main site.
I think we want to do both, really. I'd love to have a tool which can take a FLAC or a WAV file, make a best guess, because not everyone's going to be confident working with spectrograms and deciding what's a 1 and what's a 0 out of the resultant file. But that said, I don't want to take that away from people who enjoy doing that, and they're capable of doing it. So I think we need a how-to guide on how it works at the moment, but longer term, I would like for us to build a tool out which can actually do some file processing and give you the actual output and tell you its best guess at where the system is.
Yeah, I was doing a bit of research on another Discord server, the EDCD one, and the bulk of what they were getting onto is the actual machine side of that. It's going to be really difficult. It's something we can look at, but the guide is probably the most important. I'm not actually sure which BOFIN falls under, so that might be something we have to ask, because if we're putting it on the main site, obviously that needs to go through a BOFIN to write the codex entry for it.
Who would own that? Just out of curiosity, which BOFIN? Nano, would that be you, or
Star might be able to relay that too? Do you know which of the BOFINs the unstructures falls under?
What, the alien structures?
Yeah.
That would probably be Michael.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll have to touch base with him. He's indisposed at the moment.
It'll be a bit of both of Michael and Doctor Strange, actually, because it covers both. It's covering. We've got a bit of coverage between the two topics.
Okay. Yeah, that's not waking up with him too and writing that out. Also on that same topic, once we get the guide done, I know Artemis and Larzak both brought it up with me. They want to make a video on that. So it might be possible if one of our R&D guys wants to go help out that on making that video and kind of explaining it. I don't know what the timeline is on that. We'll have to talk to him about it. But I imagine they'd probably want that out pretty soon, considering this is a pretty hot topic.
The video for what again?
For explaining how we're determining the locations for these new sites by doing the information from those audio files. I had a brief overview of it. I had a commander take me through and explain to me how it's being done, but obviously I didn't get a full in-depth, so.
If you need extra manpower on that, let me know, because I've been working on that as well.
Yeah, that might be a topic that needs to come up quickly. We might have to get a group of guys together and see if we can lay out that structure and easily put it into a video. Val just mentioned in chat too, he can do some After Effects and editing and stuff too. Might be worth looking at. Other than that, I don't really have anything else on the US sites unless there's something that wants to add. Full quiet, I'll take that as we can move on. So API discussion, Barnacle edition, that's pretty much covered the same as the unknown structures. We're looking at general POI, as Nofi said, by the end of the week. API reporting system, I'm going to try and tie that into the same interface redesign as the API front end. I would imagine either we can keep those two things either in the same site or being kept by the same person. The bulk of what that is more or less a manual input for data into the API by a select group of people, or input by the general public and verify a select group of people. We had a minor discussion on this 2 days ago with Star and kind of explaining how the API is going to work. We're actually in the process of developing a companion API that Nofi might be able to expand upon. That's also tied into this reporting system, but until then, we need a way to crowdsource data and get it in there as quickly as possible. The move to the new database system and my several nines meetings. So our database backend is a 3-cluster MariaDB Glaria node that's actually managed by a third-party piece of software. I was working with them on developing kind of an open source license. They've gone quiet, so I'm not sure if they're just busy at the moment or if they become uninterested. I'm gonna keep trying to get a hold of them, but until then, I'm gonna start doing some database migration planning and moving us off of the 3-node area, and I want to expand that out to outside just the local Phoenix environment, help decrease some latency. So there might be some downtime in the coming month or so. I'll try to give as much leeway and heads up notice before I start doing some testing. Moving on to environment, there's been a lot of reports going back and forth between different people that some of the sites aren't quite as optimized. So that's one of the things we want to start looking into once we start deploying these tools out in more force. Some things brought up in regards to mirroring from the US and also into Europe, since we have big player bases in both. A lot of that's going to play into what's called GeoDNS. So if you're in Europe, we want the tools to be DNS resolved to our server in Europe, and the same goes for in the US. Cloudflare is a good example of that. That's one of the things that they offer. Devs in general, looking at optimization, redesigns. We're actually going through a pretty significant redesign of the Guardians interactive map that Adam has been working on. Him and another R&D member are completely redesigning that to match up with the new website. The integration discussions, some third-party stuff. Starbeaver and all of the R&D heads had a pretty in-depth meeting on that. There was some general talk about the way we were going about things, and maybe it wasn't quite so properly explained. I think those issues have been worked out. Basically, we want to try and integrate as much of the Canonn main site as we can with R&D tools, and in doing so, it might. Anyway, third-party wise, we're working with Anther from EDSM. I want to try and branch that out as much as possible. For instance, one of the ideas I'm having right now, and I need to try and touch base with them, people who create HCS voice packs. They have a fairly large codex of information that their voice pack take out when you ask questions about it. I think that would be a huge thing if we could get some of the Canonn information in there as well, along with some of the other third-party developers, to bring the whole third-party community together as much as possible.
What sort of things did you have in mind?
Oh, so one of the things that we don't really have much tracking on would be the BGS data for the Canonn in-game group. So I want to try and get as much tracking as we can with that to help ease some of the, we'll say, toward mass pings. So, for instance, tracking when the Canonn faction is losing control of a system, or if we need to track when we want to take over a system. I don't really know how in-depth Canonn is into that. That's something I need to look at too. But just in general, I want to try and incorporate as much third-party development as we can with as many other groups as possible.
We have an excellent BGS team who are constantly, working on the BGS and things like that. I can actually tell you that we own this is last count, I think it's 37 systems we own, spread across 80 light years, and we're due for expansion into Elvira's system.
So with the recent change, literally within the past few days, a major third-party developer API, EDDB, They just released their API information. Previously, they were doing file dumps nightly, which was a pain to try and parse that much information. We're talking gigabytes of text. So in that instance, we can use EDB's IO or API, sorry, to track all of those system changes and determine, how the world's going, etc., and building tools around that. One of the things that was brought up to me too is in the instance of another player group that I used to play with, EIC. They actually had a client that would track your contributions to that BGS, and they would reward people or just release general statistics of the top 10 players that are participating in that and how much they've contributed. All of that completely automated through a client.
Do we want to be in the position where we are tracking statistics of Canonn members? And bearing in mind we've got, 2,000 odd members.
That is a point.
I mean,
that is a fair point.
Don't get me wrong. I can see how it might be useful, but it's a bit Big Brother. I'd rather supply information rather than pull individual. Don't get me wrong. So like the Gnosis build, we had to submit screenshots and this is our participation, blah, 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 which is fine. And if we had those tools in place, then we'd be able to have hour by hour tracking of how things are performing. Just, I guess, it's reading from the elite log file when a mission's completed, when you've sold materials, blah, whatever. But I don't think that would sit well, personally, with the majority of the populace.
That is a fair point. It's something maybe we could look at as an optional thing if you want to send that information. I don't know. In all reality, I'm thinking that would be something that would be incorporated into the Canonn API or companion app. But like I said, it was just a suggestion. If it's something we need to discuss further, totally understand.
Yeah, companion app, I could see. I would suggest that if we are to go that route, we make it opt-in rather than opt-out. So by default, it's disabled, and people can choose to enable it.
Definitely, and then it could ask the user, do you want to provide your information too? And then just ticks the things on, and
Okay. Yep, that's my thinking on that as well. Okay, companion app timeline and discussion. I really do not expect the companion app to be anytime soon. That is still extremely early development. I know what Nofi's timeline is on that. But at this particular moment, I'm going to say I would like to get like either end of the year, maybe mid next year. I'm not entirely sure how long that type of development takes, as I've never done it personally. I don't know, something, Nofi, if you want to touch more base on.
Yeah, that's again the issue I had in our internal meeting the last time, the user interface part versus the, say, non-visible code part. I could totally provide the basic infrastructure and the base code, reading from the log files, providing the log files to something more API-wise. The other thing is that the actual front, the actual user interface that displays the data or provides the input parts or the everything that's the UX part, I would need help on that. On the other hand, we're just doing a web application and putting that into an, either on a website, which would run fine too, but for game integration, we would put that into Electron, or for the Xbox into UWP. And so for the actual web app UI stuff, anyone who can do web dev is actually pretty welcome on that and could help with that. And I would try and bring the integration with the game interaction, with the log files, with the API communication. So that would be a joint effort. I also don't think that we get something out, something real usable out before end of the year, because that's quite some involved build process, creating installer, auto update stuff. because that's an ongoing thing. There is a lot of infrastructure to be done for that before we can ship a V1. But I think, what it's called in the agile world, a minimum viable product. So a V1 we can ship. That's just consuming the data from the API, displaying it, and also integrating with the ship log to, for example, fetch the systems nearby, which have some science to do in the vicinity of your current ship, could be done for end of the year. Without the reporting stuff or verification stuff, but we can ship that one by one after that in a continuous process.
Awesome. That's much better than expected. But yeah, this also plays in well with the third-party integrations, because in terms of gathering systems around you with that companion app, that's going to tie in with EDSM and Anther. So building those kind of relationships is always a good starting point.
So Val's just posted in the R&D channel that there we go. That he can assist.
With React, yeah. So just as a footnote for the Xbox application, that is something that we still need to pull some more information about. We are not entirely sure on the licensing requirements for that. Know if it actually brought this up too. That might be something we have to apply for, whether or not that is free or there's a cost tied up. So that's one of the things on my very massive to-do list is try and open a line of communication with Microsoft on that.
No need for that. I can do that. I am here working on a company. We have very tight connections to Microsoft, and I also already applied for a developer license, which was just $20 for I think for a lifetime already. Not sure, or per year. Nothing really complex. So I can create Xbox apps and put them on the Xbox Store. They would be titled with my name. So if we want to do an official Canonn account, we could also do it then. But for the time being, I mean, it's a community thing, and I could also just publish that under my name. Could be titled Canonn Companion App, and I mean, on the Xbox, we don't have that tight integration with the game as on the console. The game doesn't write a file. We couldn't read it if it would do. Because all the applications are isolated. The other idea could be that if we have the V1 out and we integrate with the API and provide some real benefit for the players on the Xbox, then I would like, after that, if it turns out that the application really is used by Xbox players, we could reach out to Frontier maybe and ask them if they could also provide an extension point API-wise or network-wise on the Xbox application, so that the Xbox game wouldn't write a log file, but would open a socket we would connect to and read the information directly from the game, which they would send via just HTTP or so. But that is far, far away.
Yeah, it's definitely something we could bring up with those devs. Just to clarify, I do have a line of communication open for those that where. As far as that part of it's concerned, I can't talk on that. That's limited on a need-to-know basis, just by the request of Frontier. So that type of information, I'll release it as I get permission to. But I'll definitely get to that point. I'll try and forward that information along to them. Okay. Technical codex brainstorming. So this was brought up in the meeting we had with Starbeaver a few days ago. There was some concerns that we were going to try and replace codex that's on the main site. We talked this over, and we cleared that was not our general intention.
I believe there was a miscommunication of understanding between the boffins and the R&D team, and that's been cleared up now. because yeah, the amount of work that they've put in on the new website is. Well, let me see if I can pull a screenshot for you. It's currently undergoing some minor adjustments.
So in regards to that, we wanted to clarify with the entire BOFN and R&D team that the codex information that's on the main site that is for new players and just the general public to consume. When it comes to like the companion application and codex information, if that's something we want to display in the companion app or incorporate into other tools, all of text doesn't really help us. We need to be able to store that variable data in such a way that automated tools can pull it. And the way that WordPress is set up, which is what our main site is running on, that's not necessarily a viable solution to pull it directly from the main site, because we would have to cut out all of the text on there and just pull the information we need. So I don't know if it's something that we want to try and incorporate into the API itself, because there's going to be a lot of just general text. It might just be a separate tool where we're linking to the codex and just pulling the static data from it. That's something we need to brainstorm, but it's something that I want to start in the near future. Also, as a footnote, Discord is a terrible place to store information. Okay. The first bit that we see over with the Guardian Ruins, we were going to try and wait for Adama to pop in, but I suppose at this moment we can kind of touch on a few points. So Val has been doing excellent work with the US sites and redesigning 3D map interface. Me personally, just browsing at some of the code that she had, I think that can very easily be incorporated into the 3D map for the Guardian sites, and also something that we could use for any future information or past information, such as like the UA show. We just saw a pretty awesome UA show map that was really performance easy and laid out a lot of information, but didn't quite have the interactivity that we are so used to. So it might be something we can kind of move that code around and incorporate into previous and future projects too. So
Crescent Maze just raised a query in the R&D channel, which is when it comes to media crew, when will we get work, be it video work or making icons/logos? So here's the challenge I have here. There's definitely some overlap with the stuff that CFN are obviously pushing out and some of the skill sets that these guys have. How best to use the resources we have, I guess, is the question.
That is a good point. I'm honestly at a loss on that one. That might be something the devs can poke at more. I don't know how in-depth when we get into building these tools, if it's something that graphics can, what's the best way to word this? That graphics can enhance. We can try and get prototypes to them and see if it's something, if they want to redesign some of the resources on there.
Well, okay, let's put this on its head for a second. So if we're going to be putting out tutorial videos, do we want them in keeping with the CFM branding and the way in which those are put out with all of the setting around that? Or do we want to approach it from another point of view? Because in my mind, even if we're putting out these videos, how-to videos, the name that they should have associated with them is very much the boffins, not necessarily R&D. Although we might guide the process of that, the boffins really are the folks that know everything to do with that and all the steps and all the rest of it. And I'm personally not fussed about having my name on something as someone you can approach, unless it's to do with data collection. So I don't even know where I'm going with this. Do we put it out with CFM branding? Do we put it out with Canonn boffin branding? How do we put that out, and how can we use the resources we've got?
The thing I've been noticing, I mean, one of my, I consider myself an average player. I take a look at all the new stuff that shows up in the game and so on and so forth. One of my biggest resources is YouTube. And I have to admit, I was just a little bit surprised that Canonn does not have more videos. I mean, video saying, how do you do the Guardian runes? Video, how did we find the US sites? How do you track them? All this stuff, it's from all the other known faces around. Obsidian and the Down to Earth Astronomy, those guys. And I mean, come on, we are sort of the front runners. It should be Canonn that has the brand out there as well. That's just my thinking.
I'd like to address this. That particular, well, shall we say, walkthrough has been addressed on the new codex. There are step-by-step instructions on how to complete that with some companion videos by Obsidian and there was another guy.
That is true. Actually, I do remember something about that.
Yeah, that's that will be launched. I'll just say this: the codex hasn't been revealed to the general membership yet, and the whole purpose of the codex is to condense things down into an easy, readable format for newer players, not like, you know, veterans or people who have been playing for, you know, a year, 2 years or so, and they know where to go for the information. This is solely designed just as a resource for new people, easy to look at.
That is a good point. So if we are making these tutorial videos and putting them directly into the codex, it might be something we can try and loop in some of our media guys. Do you have something, Adama? Yeah,
try eating your microphone.
Yeah. Well, I'm on my phone, so hold on. Let's do it this way. Just a second.
While you're doing
now? Is that better?
Yeah, that's a little better. Lars, if you need to, you can go ahead and speak if you have a mic.
How about that?
Anyway.
You're breaking up like crazy, Adama.
Lars. Yeah, go ahead, Lars.
Okay. Primarily, CFN is a role-playing outlet. We try our best to make everything useful and workable information-wise, but we do have to write things looking at it from that. So if you guys want to do more out of character, more explainy things versus, oh, hey, this is some goofy fuck with purple hair sitting here, you know, talking about the news, that sounds awesome. Like, we could definitely use some out of character stuff that is just right to the point. If media wants to do the more meta out of character commentary than CFN does, that sounds great.
I think in the terms of actually getting the videos created, we can definitely do that. I don't know, Larzok, if it's something that we want to stick onto the CFN YouTube channel, because I know you guys are working on trying to build that account up and get views and subscribers and stuff. So maybe you guys could do like technical spotlights where it's maybe a little bit out of role playing. You can have a little role playing in there, but for the bulk of the message just being the tutorials, and then that's something we can link onto the codex sites. Yeah,
we could work something like that.
Yeah, but, go on.
Sorry, no, you go ahead, Sabami. I was
just going to say, I don't want to create extra work for CFN team. I know you're up against it in getting the awesome content out that you already push out. But at the same time, I don't want to tread on toes. So if we're going to make the videos and it's done by R&D, or if it's driven by the boffins, whoever, you know, if Michael comes to us and says, hey, we need a video put out for this, then maybe that's the way we do it. That said, I'm not volunteering to speak on it because I sound lovely. So I would suggest if we're going to do it, then we find either a way of doing it as a text overlay, or we find someone who's good at speaking on these things, because, you know, you can't really equate to the stuff Larzok's pushing out.
Right. In fact, I have a suggestion, if I may.
Sure.
So why not, here's my thoughts, create a separate channel just for text overlay, again, no voice content. That's basically step-by-step. So give an example. I'll use UP or US. Here's how to identify. Here's how to use Audacity to do it step by step. Here's how you find, people say high pitch, low pitch. Here's an example of that, but no one's saying that. That content is designed to be quick link, people asking and to reference it various places where it's appropriate, whether that's in the codex or not. And it doesn't have anything to do with CFN. But instead of just having random people posting it and having some crazy content, we give someone who is trusted, one of the boffins, or something, some kind of editorial approval. Like, that's great, but we really need to make this a little bit better here, or let's not use Comic Sans, for example.
Damn it.
All tools are now required Comic Sans.
I'd just like to raise a point.
Right.
Just in the chat, Artemis just offered that he or Lartzok could voice over the videos when we provide them with the actual script, which would be great, because I personally hate YouTube videos that explain something that don't have some explaining voice on them.
I just, sorry to interrupt, but I'd just like to raise something which you guys may have not considered. And I raised this a couple of days ago with a handful of the R&D team, but you guys, please, I know the stuff, that the ideas, the content that you're creating is absolutely amazing, but please don't get burnt out, because what you are aiming at is a massive undertaking, and it's going to require a lot of partnership between both the R&D department and the CFN guys. And yeah, it's a lot of work what you're speaking about. So please don't burn yourself out, guys.
Well, we're just going to burn out CFN, so we're good.
But on a more positive note, the way that you guys are talking about a partnership between more technical data, more technical things, and presenting it in a digestible format, either in video or in radio, it not only would it promotes both departments quite well, is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, that's our eventual end goal. I mean, we have our researchers who are pulling the content in for us, and we're getting it in a reasonable manner. That's debatable. But the whole point of us building these tools is because we need to help people, and not everyone works great in a web browser. Not everyone works great in a tutorial video. Me personally, I like to have someone reading text to me instead of just watching a YouTube video without audio.
Yeah, hence the creation of the codex before we tackled anything else, but you guys are tackling that anyway, so
we're trying to give people as many avenues to learn this stuff in the way that they enjoy. We don't want it to be a chore. So Boffin's writing the codex, that's incredibly awesome. Most of us suck at writing articles like that. I mean, it's something I personally can't do. I'm terrible at writing text. But it's the whole point of R&D is we're here to build the things in a manner in which people can consume it in the way that they like. So the CFN guys, they do a great job of releasing the news. The Boffins do a great job at releasing the articles. We have media guys who can create tutorial videos, and the rest of us, we're here to just develop the tools to consume this stuff. So, okay, is there anything else we need brought up in regards to media right now? Anyone have anything to add?
Just getting some typing in main channel. Hang on a sec.
Yeah, we'll try and cover as much of the text as we can for the people who can't be here.
Yeah, so Crescent Mage has just said, I mentioned the Canonn site video earlier.
Oh, yeah. So Crescent had brought up that the Crescent, do you mean the current video on the main site? Yeah, so it's on the current main site. Crescent's saying that video is slightly outdated. I don't know. I actually haven't recently Starbeaver. Are we creating a new front-end video for the new site?
A new front-end video has been in the works for a good couple of months now.
Okay, so I don't know.
We're just waiting for. Well, Hugo is taking a bit of a break at the moment, and he usually handles all that because he's pretty spot on with that. He should be back in the next couple of weeks or so.
Artemis did bring up a good point. Obviously, in terms of R&D, the main site is out of our scope. We tend to leave that to the other devs that have been doing that since its first iteration. Art wants to know if there's plans to add CFN videos to the main site. I don't know if that's something you guys can expand on.
I think that's already got its own frigging section, to be honest.
I haven't looked at it recently.
It has been taken into account. I do know it has been taken into account. I'll just have a quick look. Okay.
As Larzok and Artemis have said, if we can get technical details of a thing with step-by-step instructions, I can work on writing a script. Media guys, I honestly don't know what your skills are. I haven't been keeping up with it that much, so it might be something I look at in the next few weeks to see who has video skills, who has image skills. I know Craig, he has been doing a great job with the animated images that we've been using recently. Ronan, I know, has some video editing skills that he's mentioned before. Crescent, I'm not actually sure. I know you have some imaging skills, but I'm not sure on videos.
CFN guy, just so you know, the website is the new website is already up to date with your current broadcasts.
Oh, okay. I was not even aware of that. So Crescent's a graphics and art, so you fall in the same realm as Cray Cray. I would definitely Crescent. I would talk with Cray Cray because I know he's recently working on some stuff that I've seen in some of the other channels. You might touch base with him and see if it's something that you guys can collab on. I don't know how much he wants to release about it right now, but what I was seeing, he was working on some pretty cool stuff in the past few hours. So
I do apologize, gents. I just need to nip AFK for 2 minutes.
No problem. We'll move on to some more technical stuff. So a few concerns were brought up in regards to the Guardian ruins. There's been concerns, at least since 2.3 has been released, that obelisks might have multiple possible combinations and how we're going to handle that if it is actually a problem in the API. Nofi, I think when we talked about it last, which might have been in 2.2, our current database structure does not handle that well. Correct?
Completely correct. We cannot handle this at the moment. So do we really have confirmed occasions where one obelisk gives multiple data points with different combinations?
No. There's a bug in game which sometimes raises its head. It's not a repeatable issue. And the consistent results that we get from the obelisks are the ones that we already have documented. That said, on the very odd occasion, you will sometimes get entirely the wrong data out of an obelisk. And I'm pretty sure it's just one of those glitches server side. But
okay, yeah.
I've not been able to, on those that I found it on and those that have been reported, I've done extensive testing and I've not been able to reproduce it on any of them.
So it may be worth instead just referencing that on a bug report that says, oh, if you're check here to see if this is one of the known erroneous combos before you submit, just to save your time.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
I did actually just file a bug report today, since I just hopped into the game in the last month. I have not been able to get the Ruins mission. Now, others are saying they are able to get it, but my assumption is on my bug report was it's because I let the mission expire since the new recent patch. I don't know if that's an ended feature or a bug. Did all the standard undocking, logging, closing the client, etc. I have not been able to get the mission since, so I'm making a bug report on that one.
My last mission expired as well, so I can check that in game if you want.
Yeah, that might be something we need to look at too. So the other thing too, I've had to fix a few recently that I have a few pilots confirm is we've had some obelisks going offline and others going online, and this is repeatable in solo and verified. It looks like it's only on specific sites, so I'm not sure if maybe we just had an error in reporting in the first place or what was going on there, but it might be something we need to look at too, if that's something that we'll keep up on.
When did that start?
I saw something mentioned about it right after the new recent patch, the 2.10.
We've had a couple of reports before that. So I think the way that we're going to need to approach this is to get our data verification team on it. So if there's a site that's misbehaving, and we're not actively doing that at the moment, but if there's a site that's actively, there's a site that's misreporting and it's repeatable, then we need to throw some additional people at it just to confirm. There were some reports before 2.3.10 went live, and there's been a few more since then. I've been keeping a fairly close eye on the Ruins channel. But I don't know if people have been reporting combinations not working or anything like that.
I was just wondering if it was related to any of the unknown sites and we encountered some intended gameplay, or is it a bug? So
that's my question too.
Do they have the data? Do they have the unknown link? Just something to ask.
That actually might be a good question to bring up too.
So the last ones that were reported were before the first unknown site was found.
Okay, then less likely there.
Other than that, I really don't have anything else. So this is the time for any requests, comments, concerns, anything that you think we need or don't need, whatever, any kind of suggestions.
Maybe emphasize to people that when we have a meeting, that they should be here on time and not a half an hour late.
I believe you're currently referencing yourself there, Adama.
Never mind. It's perfectly fine then. Never mind.
This is our... Go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, I do have a couple of things regarding the US sheet. Am I correct in seeing that it has now been locked? There's very limited access to it?
Not that I'm aware of, but I've been adding so many people on it because it was my mistake to add myself to that sheet.
Okay.
I'm getting on average about 100 PMs a day, so.
But
I had an issue with it earlier where I had to close and reopen the browsing for the cache, so it might be the same thing I hit where it seemed like it was locked. I had to check.
I'll check. But I've been while you've been going over these things, I've been checking. From what I can see, there are 4 sites where the coordinates are either mistyped or are incomplete. Those are sites 41, 55, 60, and 87.
As in, have I marked them as in red text?
Hang on, I think I have that bug where the spreadsheet is locked. I'll just restart my browser.
Right, and do they have it marked as confirmed? Because that would be more of an issue if they marked confirmed when they're wrong.
I think there was miscommunication on that. I was trying to resolve that with a few people. In regards to this, in regards to this meeting, those that have been marked in red, I was specifying as they were not to their full decimal. Whether that is a requirement or not, I was trying to set a standard because in terms of these sites, it's not a huge deal. The radius of the planets are so small that the difference between a thousandth of a decimal point is a huge deal. My point in getting with the decimal point requirements is when we start finding things on planets that are much larger than what we have currently, those decimal points can cause a variance in a couple of miles or kilometers to hundreds of miles or kilometers. So it's difficult to put down a specific set of coordinates, especially in sites as large as the unknown structures. The gist of what I was instructing guys to do was land on the center and get the general coordinates. In the future, when we're doing kind of data reporting, we kind of lacked on it in the Guardian Ruins, which it was a huge deal once we got the POI update. But we want to try and get center structure, full coordinates to the 4th decimal point and have that recorded as static data.
Okay, I don't know if it's the Google Docs that's making a hiccup, but I'm seeing it as with the tabs up top as links, and the sheet is locked. I can't do anything about that.
I've noticed that
Yeah,
a couple times when not
I had to
logged in
close.
to Google.
Yeah, I had to close everything and then clear my cache and reopen it. The cache may not have been necessary, but that's what I was
Okay, I'm
seeing.
gonna have to click. But the two where I mean, it's not about the decimal point. Oh, I'm just noticing another one. Site number 53. You want two slashes. There's only one there. In number 60, there is a colon. Let me see, 60 there. 66.39.18.
So, Sean,
Okay.
what I would say is if you spot anything like that and it's glaringly obvious, correct it.
Okay, will do.
You have permission to do so, let's put it that way. Anyone that's got rights to that sheet has been deemed sensible enough to be committing data to it. So just correct it. Anything you find like that, it's fine. Thank you.
If I pass on my email address to whoever is doing that, yeah, do you want to add me? Because I can help with upkeep as well. Because I'm usually I'm around all freaking day anyway. So
Yeah, that's fine. I'll add you on the star if you want to PM it to me.
aye.
And we need someone else that's available late at night. Well, early for you all, late for me.
I'm like third shift at work, so I generally have these spreadsheets pulled up anyway. I've been committing that as I get it.
There's a bunch of people I've added. I think we're fairly well covered in terms of individuals able to make changes. So
Good deal.
Just as a side note too, Sean, the reason why we're currently doing the reporting forms and the responses for that is because people throwing it in Discord doesn't help me if at the point I need to go back and reference the coordinates. The whole point of the report form is to keep a log of the raw data people are giving to us. So if we have a problem, we can go back and look and say, okay, that report may have had the correct information and it got changed later, etc.
Those forms, is it only you receiving them, or are they somewhere where I can see them as well?
I just threw a link in the R&D chat. So there should be some links in the pins message in the science chat. One which being the data sheet, which is the confirmed information. The next one would be the reporting form, which is Google's forms where you go in and fill out the information. All right. Any other questions, comments, concerns?
nothing from me.
Just a side note too, Val is requesting any suggestions or criticism to the new 3D map design. So if you haven't taken a look at it, he threw a link in there. Feel free to take a look. All right. Anything else? Yes, no, maybe? Okay, cool. Star Beaver, I did actually just think of something. I'm not entirely sure if something that I can release to the general public or even to the RD in general. The Frontier sponsored video coming up 30th or on Thursday. Is that something that R&D is going to be included in? Oh, it was in the initial plans, but that might have changed since the unknown structures.
I don't actually know what's going on with that. I'm having a meeting on Tuesday with Outspan and Ed.
Okay, yeah, if you want to keep me updated on that, because we've got redesign stuff going on, and if R&D is going to be in any way, shape, or form a part of that, either with the 3D maps or stuff, I may request a change freeze on coding just for that time span. So.
Okay, because I think the initial plan was we were going to talk about it in the travel time on the way out there from the Gnosis, because I know we're starting at the Gnosis, so there's like a good 10, 15 minutes maybe to talk about it probably. But we are still, as I say, we're still going to come up with a proper format.
And is this something that I need to keep restricted to R&D, to just the select few?
Well, nobody knows exactly what's going on, and it was already in the newsletter on Friday that we're doing a thing on Thursday with Ed.
Oh, okay. I must have missed that. So the general gist of this is another Ed education video. There's been a few on the current site. So as soon as I get information, if I'm allowed to release it, I'll divvy that out to the people who made it. Other than that, I don't have anything else. So I'll take the dooming silence as nobody else has anything to add. So thank you everyone for coming to the first team. Just for those who aren't aware of the information, I plan on having these twice a month on the first and third Sunday of every month. So if you have things that you add to the meeting notes beforehand, just let me know. We can bring it up as a top point.
I actually have one last thing. It has struck me that this community has been working a lot together. I mean, not as there was this one guy individual. I can't remember what was his name. That guy who's also in the Legion, where he played the drama thingy. But generally, people have been working very closely together, been helping out very closely together. Shouldn't we somehow acknowledge all these people in some sort of our next media radio broadcast or something? Thank you for to everybody for your very hard work and dedication, something like that.
I think that is absolutely
done.
Entirely appropriate right there, because I think a lot of people have maintained that this effort has been spread across so many people, across so many different groups. It's incredible to see that so many people are working together. It really is.
I definitely agree. It's something that we should bring up too.
We will certainly be mentioning the hard work you guys have been doing, and like without you guys doing this, we'd have nothing to talk about. Like, I mean, that was kind of the impetus for building CFN anyways, is there was so much amazing crap coming out of this channel, and a lot of it was so out of touch for people, like just so far above their heads they couldn't get a grip on it. So like I wanted to be able to show what you guys were doing in a slightly more digestible way for the layman.
Well, it's not just the R&D; it's the entire community as a whole. Because
everybody. Like when CFN started, R&D didn't exist, and it was just people doing things.
Yeah, Chat Science has been like chewing through USs. I mean, they were decoding fast. I mean, I jokingly put a couch out. Like, I just want to make sure you're a human being because you're going too fast.
Wow, we're up to 98 sites now.
Yeah,
89 officially.
God, man, you go to sleep for 4 hours.
This is what I was saying in Chat Science earlier. The progression on the US sites, given the mechanics are slightly different than the Guardian, has blown up far beyond what we were doing in the Guardian sites. Blows my mind how many people we have working on this, and finding the new sites is debatable, but not quite as easy, I think.
Yeah, it would be a little faster even if we could have put 3 items in the SRV cargo bay, so we didn't have to do the whole fox, chicken, in the boat thing with the UP and all that. So I can only imagine what it'd be like if it wasn't that little bit of extra back and forth.
Sounds like you need to get some friends, Adama. Makes it much quicker.
For friends? What's that?
I guess that would be
I have
us.
a computer. Who needs friends?
I do want to commend the efforts of all of us technical guys who are generally antisocial, hide in the corner. I've made some pretty decent friends since I've joined Canonn, and I greatly appreciate that. Only joining within the past 6 months, you guys have not only been great colleagues and great people to play with, but I generally feel welcomed in this community, and that is something to be extremely proud of.
All right, I'm going to go puke now. Thanks.
Alrighty, I will consider this meeting adjourned since I promised an hour and we've already gone over that.
Just a few minutes, not a problem.
Cool.
Other than that, guys, thank you for coming to the first meeting, and I hope to see at least most of you at the second one.
Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.